Welcome to Yakata the Viv's basement, our ex-territoria where the questions are asked and you get no answers. So for those of us, I'm sure it doesn't apply to you, but it does apply to me, who find Meron a little bit challenging, not exactly my English cup of tea, then how do I relate to Rashbi? Who is this Rashbi? If I'm not going to Meron, what will I be doing on Lag BaOmer? A bonfire, which has very little resemblance to Rashbi? Will I be learning the famous story of Rashbi in the cave? What is the take-home about Rashbi? He seems, everybody has a different Rashbi, and he seems so very difficult to handle nowadays. Look at the very famous story in Shabbat, where Rashbi hides in the cave for 12 years, then he comes out and he burns everything around him, then he goes back again for another 12 months, then he comes out and he seems to be changed. He tries to do good, he helps out with the tum'ah, with the impurity in Tveria. But even that Rashbi, if you look at the continuation of the story and in other variations of the story, is turning people into Galat Zamot. He's doing away with the baddies. He seems a very passionate, black and white kind of guy. Some of you might know the question or the argument, discussion between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his counterparts as to whether one should sit and learn Torah the whole day, one's whole life, or work as well. And Rashbi seems to think that one should be learning. So this is quoted by certain sectors of society. What did Rashbi think? So I think actually Rashbi, like Eliyahu Hanavi, is actually a difficult character to connect to. But actually difficult if you're looking at the Agadatot about Rashbi. Not actually if you begin looking at Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon in the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon, who is none other than Rashbi, actually is far more lenient than you would expect from somebody who is so black and white, so drastic in the famous stories, the story of the cave, the story of the Romans, the question of whether you should be working or learning. You would expect a very binary kind of Rashbi, a kind of impatient man, a black and white, fire. But actually, that's not the Rabbi Shimon that we know at all. Not that everything goes by whether you are stringent or lenient, but actually Rabbi Shimon is extremely lenient when it comes to halacha. So I want to take you now from that problem, that issue, sidestep somewhere else for a moment, to say that I think what's worth thinking about Rashbi is that his radicalness, his radicalism, is not in the sense that he doesn't care for materialism and doesn't care for the temporal world and just thinks we should all be learning Torah. I think what is important for Rashbi is motivation. Is what were you thinking? Why are you doing what you're doing? So if I take you back to the story, at least the story in the Bavli, in the Gemara of the Bavli, Rabbi Shimon's problem with the Romans right at the beginning, although they've made bridges and they've made markets and all these lovely things, is that they did it for themselves. They did it for bad reasons, right? They had markets so that they could enjoy the whores. They had bathhouses just so they could have a good fun themselves. They had bridges so that they could collect taxes. If you notice for a moment, the problem isn't the markets themselves or the bridges. It's what you're doing with them. It's why you made them. When Rabbi Shimon comes out the second time, he meets an old man who has 2 bundles of hadassim. And he asks him, why do you have 2? And he says, Zachor and Shamor. And it's then that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai feels, Nichamtani, right? Consoled, able to connect to the world. And what is so special about an old man saying that he has 2 bundles of hadassim, one for Zachor and one for Shamor? Unless you say, it shows what the Gemara says. It shows how he's happy to realize that the mitzvot care so much. This old man cares so much about the mitzvot. And I think again, that's about not just the doing of the mitzvah, it's how you do your mitzvah. It's that he cared to bring hadassim. He was thinking also about Shamor and also about Zachor. So again, the action there is in the motivation, in the caring, and in the mind. Now, if you look at a very famous argument that Rabbi Shimon has with Chachamim, it is about a davar she'eino mitkaven. Are you chayav on Shabbat if you do an action and you didn't mean to actually do the malacha? Example, you take a bench, a very heavy bench, in your garden, okay? And you want to move it from one side of the garden to the other side of the garden because you want to sit on it with your friends. And you drag it, instead of picking it up, you drag it along the earth. And what have you made now? It's like plowing. You've made a deep furrow into the ground, right? Deep enough that it could be considered plowing, which is a malacha, choresh. Rabbi Shimon says, you're not chayav. You know why? Because you didn't mean to do that malacha. You were trying to get something else done. Your goal was something else. So, again, looking at Rabbi Shimon, perhaps what he's caring about is the notion of motivation and intention. Where is a person? If Rabbi Shimon is very binary or black and white, I think it's about that. It's less about whether you should be part of this world or not be part of this world. It's less about learning Torah or not. It's more about, what do you care about? What does a person care about? Why are you doing what you're doing? At the end of the story in the Bavli, right, in the Gemara Bavli, about Rabbi Shimon, there's this old man who makes fun of what Rabbi Shimon did in Tveria, where Rabbi Shimon went out of his way to be very lenient and managed somehow to purify a whole big area where the Kohanim couldn't walk through. And Rabbi Shimon really takes umbrage. He really is upset with this old man who was part of the Bet Din, who's now kind of like making fun. Again, you can read it as, well, if you were part of the decision, why are you now undermining the decision? But again, I think, again, Rabbi Shimon cares so much about what you care about. What is it that you care about? And that's why he's so astounded in a bad way at the end of that story, where, if you like, this old man who's part of the Bet Din can be a turncoat, can be a traitor. Not technically a traitor, but a traitor in thought. He never was really in it. You never really wanted to do this chesed. So where I'd like to take the radicalism of Rashbi is not to the question of connection to the world, temporalness, materialism. I think Rashbi is always asking us, where are our intentions? Where are we for what are we motivated? For what will we put ourselves on the line for? For what will we go all out? If Rashbi is the one that goes all out, or hakol, or klum, it's all or nothing, then the next question is, what do you give your all for? And I think that's what is interesting about Rashbi.